The floor beneath your feet is warm, not from fire, not from sunlight, but from something hidden, quietly working beneath layers of stone and earth. Warm air moves slowly through narrow spaces you never see, heating the room without smoke, without noise, without effort. Outside, winter settles heavily on the landscape. Frost clings to rooftops, breath turns to mist, and yet inside these ancient walls, people move calmly, barefoot across stone floors that hold gentle heat, as if the building itself were alive. For centuries, this warmth was normal, expected, trusted, and then, somehow, it faded away. Hey, tonight we're gonna drift gently backward through time, not to a moment of collapse or conquest, but into the quiet rhythm of daily life, to an invention once woven into ordinary routines, warming homes, bathhouses, and public spaces across the ancient world. An invention so practical, so effective, that it shaped how buildings were designed, how people lived, and how comfort itself was understood, before slowly, almost unnoticed, being left behind. And as the story unfolds, just a gentle reminder. If you're enjoying this so far, you're welcome to like the video and subscribe, only if it feels right. I always love seeing where you're listening from and what time it is for you, so feel free to share that in the comments. Now, stay right where you are. Let the room stay dim, let the background sounds fade in softly, and allow yourself to sink back into the story as it continues. The people who lived with this invention rarely spoke of it with excitement. It didn't sparkle or demand attention. It simply worked. In the Roman world, buildings were not warmed by fireplaces alone. Instead, heat was guided carefully beneath raised floors, flowing through channels that carried warmth evenly through entire rooms. This system, known quietly among builders and engineers, transformed cold stone into a surface of comfort. Bathhouses relied on it. Villas were planned around it. Even public spaces used it to keep the chill at bay during long winters. To walk across a heated floor was to feel the presence of human ingenuity. Not loud or proud, but steady and dependable. Children grew up assuming warmth would rise from beneath their feet. Elders rested in rooms where the cold never quite reached them. Conversations lingered longer in winter, unhurried, unbroken by shivering hands. And for generations, no one questioned it. The warmth moved slowly, almost thoughtfully, through the hidden spaces beneath the floor. There was no rush to it, no roaring flame or crackling sound, just a steady breath of heat traveling through narrow passages, rising gently through stone and tile, softening the cold that clung to winter days. People sitting in these rooms rarely paused to think about how it worked. They simply lived with it the way one lives with daylight or gravity, present, reliable, unquestioned. In Roman towns and cities, this invention shaped daily life in subtle ways. Bathhouses opened early, their floors already warm beneath the first visitors of the morning. Steam drifted lazily upward, mixing with the low murmur of conversation. Merchants discussed prices, friends shared news, and travelers rested their tired bodies, all while warmth surrounded them from below. Homes, too, were designed around this quiet system. The placement of rooms mattered. Living spaces were often arranged above the heated channels, while storage rooms and servants' quarters lay farther away, cooler and less comfortable. Architecture itself learned to bend around the slow movement of heat. Builders became careful planners, thinking not just about walls and roofs, but about what lay unseen beneath the floor. Brick pillars lifted stone slabs slightly off the ground, creating a hollow space where warm air could circulate. Clay pipes ran through walls, carrying heat upward and outward, ensuring that no corner grew too cold. It was an invention that rewarded patience. It took time to warm a building fully, but once it did, the heat lingered. Even after the fire was reduced, even as the day faded into evening, the warmth stayed behind, held gently by stone and brick. This suited the rhythm of ancient life. Days began slowly. Fires were lit early, before sunrise, tended carefully by hands accustomed to routine. There was no urgency, no switch to flip. Warming a space was a process, one that unfolded over hours rather than moments. People planned around it. Baths were busiest once the floors were fully warm. Social gatherings favored rooms where heat had settled evenly. Comfort was something you prepared for, not something you summoned instantly. And for centuries, this way of living worked. The invention spread across the empire, carried by engineers, builders, and craftspeople who understood its value. From Italy to Britain, from Spain to the eastern provinces, heated floors appeared beneath villas, public halls, and bathing complexes. Even in colder regions, far from the Mediterranean sun, the system adapted, offering a sense of familiarity and ease. To walk into one of these buildings on a winter day was to feel a quiet confidence. The world outside could be harsh, unpredictable, and cold, but inside, the environment was controlled, moderated by human hands and careful design. Yet inventions, like habits, depend on more than usefulness alone. They depend on the people who maintain them, and this particular system required attention. Fires had to be fed. Channels needed to be cleared of ash. Brick supports beneath the floors required inspection and repair. Skilled labor was essential, not just to build the system, but to keep it functioning year after year. As long as cities thrived, as long as wealth flowed and skilled workers were available, the system endured. But slowly, subtly, the world began to change. Large urban centers grew quieter. Trade routes shifted. Resources that once seemed abundant became harder to secure. Skilled builders grew fewer, and the knowledge they carried became fragmented, passed down unevenly or not at all. In some places, public bathhouses closed their doors. In others, they remained open but operated on a reduced scale, heating fewer rooms, using simpler methods. Heated floors were repaired less often. Some channels collapsed and were never rebuilt. People adapted. They always do. Fireplaces became more common, easier to install and simpler to maintain. They heated the air quickly, even if unevenly. A single hearth could warm a small room without requiring hidden chambers or specialized construction. It wasn't as elegant. It wasn't as consistent, but it was practical. Over time, buildings changed shape. Floors were laid directly on the ground. Walls were built thicker. Windows grew smaller. Warmth was gathered around a central fire instead of distributed quietly beneath every step. The ancient invention didn't vanish overnight. It lingered. In some regions, it continued quietly for generations. In others, remnants remained beneath newer floors. Forgotten chambers sealed away, warming nothing at all. People walked over them without knowing they existed, unaware that their ancestors had once lived differently. The knowledge faded gently, like a language no longer spoken at home. And yet, traces remained. Archaeologists centuries later would uncover these systems with careful hands, brushing dust from brick pillars, tracing the paths of clay pipes, reconstructing the invisible architecture of warmth. They would marvel not at grandeur or conquest, but at the thoughtful simplicity of the design. They would imagine barefoot footsteps on warm stone, conversations drifting through softly heated rooms, winters made bearable not by urgency, but by planning. The invention had not failed. The world around it had changed. And as you rest here now, perhaps with modern warmth humming quietly nearby, it's comforting too. Remember that long before switches and wires, people once shaped comfort with patience, skill, and an understanding of time that moved a little more slowly than ours does today. The warmth they built was never meant to shout, only to remain, and in that quiet intention, it still lingers, beneath ruins, beneath memories, beneath the steady rhythm of history itself. Slowly breathing, slowly fading, just like the day giving way to night. The night settles more deeply now, and the story moves with it, unhurried, unstrained. As centuries passed, the places that once depended on this hidden warmth grew quieter. Roof tiles slipped and were replaced more simply. Walls were repaired without reopening the spaces beneath the floor. What could not be easily seen was rarely given priority. Life, after all, demanded attention elsewhere. In smaller towns and rural areas, people learned to live closer to the cold. Thick clothing became part of daily life indoors as well as out. Wool, layered and heavy, replaced stone floors as the main source of comfort. Rugs were spread carefully where families gathered, their woven patterns trapping a little warmth near the body. Fireplaces became the heart of the home. Not efficient, not even particularly comfortable, but visible. You could see the flames, hear them, tend them directly. There was reassurance in that immediacy. A fire answered quickly when fed, even if it left corners cold and ceilings thick with smoke. The old system, buried beneath the floor, felt distant by comparison. It asked for foresight, resources, and patience, things that became harder to spare as societies shifted their focus. Knowledge narrowed. Crafts that once passed smoothly from master to apprentice grew fragmented. A builder might remember the general idea of heated floors, but not the precise measurements. An engineer might know the theory, but lack the labor to implement it. Over time, what was once common practice became specialized knowledge. Then, rare knowledge, then curiosity. People remembered that such things had existed. Stories lingered. Old ruins hinted at something clever beneath the surface. But memory without practice grows soft around the edges, unreliable. And so the invention rested. Beneath collapsed bathhouses. Beneath renovated villas. Beneath cities that layered themselves over older versions of their own streets. Earth filled the hollow spaces. Stones settled. Warmth no longer traveled there. Yet daily life continued, shaped by other quiet routines. Mornings began with the careful relighting of hearths. Smoke drifted lazily toward small openings in roofs or walls. The smell of ash became familiar, almost comforting. Families gathered close, sharing warmth as well as conversation. At night, beds were moved closer to fires or piled high with blankets. Animals were sometimes brought indoors, their body heat valued more than sentiment. Windows were shuttered early, candles burned low. Comfort became something local and personal, not architectural. In monasteries, where discipline shaped every hour, fires were kept small, almost symbolic. Monks wrapped themselves in heavy habits and learned to accept cold as part of spiritual life. The idea of warm floors beneath bare feet would have seemed indulgent, even unnecessary. Castles, with their thick stone walls, relied on massive hearths that consumed wood relentlessly. Drafts slipped through arrow slits and corridors. Even nobility accepted a certain level of discomfort as inevitable. The old invention, once democratic in its reach, warming public baths, civic buildings, and private homes alike, belonged to another rhythm of life. A rhythm that valued stability, and stability in those later centuries was fragile. Still, there were moments when the past whispered. Sometimes, during renovations, a worker would break through a floor and uncover strange brick supports. Hollow spaces, channels blackened with ancient soot. They might pause puzzled before filling it in again. There was work to be done, after all. No time to chase old mysteries. Occasionally, someone tried to revive the idea. A scholar described it in writing. A noble experimented with something similar in a private residence. But without a network of shared knowledge and skilled labor, the results were uneven. It was easier to adapt than to restore. And so the invention remained mostly dormant, sleeping beneath layers of history. Centuries later, when curiosity turned backward in a more deliberate way, people began to notice these remnants again. Excavations revealed the careful geometry of ancient heating systems. Diagrams were drawn. The logic was admired. But admiration is not the same as use. By then, new technologies had emerged. New ways of producing heat, distributing it, controlling it quickly. The ancient method seemed slow, labor-intensive, and tied to a way of living that no longer fit the pace of the modern world. And yet, there is something deeply calming about its design. It did not rush. It did not overheat. It asked people to think ahead, to prepare for cold before it arrived, to tend warmth as a shared responsibility rather than an instant demand. It warmed the ground beneath people, inviting them to slow down, to linger, to stay. As you rest now, listening quietly, perhaps that idea still resonates. The notion that comfort can be built into the structure of life itself, not summoned on command, but cultivated gently over time. The ancient invention may no longer glow beneath our floors, but its spirit lingers, in the desire for steady warmth, for environments that hold us rather than startle us, for nights where nothing urgent is required. And as the story continues to unfold, it does so softly, like warmth traveling unseen through stone, easing its way forward, asking nothing more than patience and rest. In the long, quiet stretch of history that followed, the invention became something almost myth-like, not dramatic enough to inspire legends, yet too clever to be entirely forgotten. It existed in footnotes, in sketches, in the careful notes of scholars who preferred calm observation over bold claims. These scholars moved slowly through ruins, measuring, tracing, imagining. They knelt beside broken floors and rested their hands on cold stone, picturing a time when warmth rose gently through those same surfaces. Their writings were thoughtful, precise, and often overlooked, much like the invention itself. Meanwhile, everyday life continued to find its own balance. Homes became smaller, more compartmentalized. Heat was gathered where people sat, ate, and slept. The idea of warming an entire structure evenly felt unnecessary, even wasteful, in a world where resources were counted carefully. Warmth became personal rather than communal. Villages adjusted to seasonal rhythms. Winter was expected to be uncomfortable. It was something to endure rather than defeat. People rose later, moved less, conserved energy. Cold shaped behavior just as much as warmth once had. In these conditions, the ancient system seemed out of place, a solution from a time of confidence and expansion, when societies believed their cities would last forever. And perhaps that is why it faded so gently. It belonged to an age that trusted continuity, when buildings were meant to stand for centuries, when public spaces were central to daily life, when shared comfort was a civic value rather than a private luxury. As the centuries rolled onward, the memory of warm floors became an echo, pleasant idea, a curiosity. Then, quietly, something familiar began to return, not in the same form, not with the same materials, but with the same intention. As modern cities grew and technology advanced, people once again sought ways to distribute heat evenly, efficiently, invisibly. Pipes replaced channels. Water replaced air. Boilers replaced open fires. The principle remained: warmth traveling through hidden pathways, rising gently into lived spaces. Few paused to connect the dots. Few realized they were rediscovering something ancient. Yet the calm logic of it persisted, as if history itself remembered what worked, even when people did not. And now, as you lie resting, perhaps with gentle warmth surrounding you, the story settles into a softer pace. The invention that once warmed empires did not disappear because it failed. It stepped aside as the world shifted, waiting patiently beneath layers of change. It reminds us that progress is not always a straight line forward. Sometimes it curves. Sometimes it loops back. Sometimes it pauses, rests, and waits for the right moment to return in a quieter form. And with that thought, the night grows still. The past recedes gently, not demanding attention, not asking to be remembered urgently, just existing, like warmth held in stone long after the fire has gone out. You don't need to follow the rest of the story closely now. It will continue on its own, softly, steadily, as you drift further into rest, carried by the same slow patience that once warmed ancient floors beneath sleeping cities. The hours stretch, unmeasured, and the story moves with the same unhurried ease. In the deep layers of old cities, beneath cobblestones polished by centuries of footsteps, the remains of those warm passages lie quietly. They do not announce themselves. They simply exist, sealed beneath newer floors, newer lives, newer concerns. The earth above them has settled into a gentle stillness, holding the memory of heat the way stone remembers the sun long after dusk. People walk above these spaces every day without knowing. They hurry, they pause, they rest. Their warmth comes from modern systems now, humming softly behind walls. Yet beneath it all, the idea remains the same: warmth traveling invisibly, shaping comfort, without demanding attention. In ancient times, no one spoke of this invention as extraordinary. It was discussed practically, like drainage or roads, something useful, something expected. The most successful technologies are often like this. They blend into life so completely that they stop being noticed. Children born into those cities learned its presence without words. They felt it on cold mornings, rising gently as they stepped onto the floor. They assumed that buildings were meant to care for those inside them, that architecture itself could offer reassurance. When the invention faded from use, it did so without ceremony. No one gathered to mark its end. No decree was issued to abandon it. It simply became less common, then rare, then absent. History is filled with endings like this. Not all losses are dramatic. Some slip away quietly, replaced not by something better, but by something easier. And yet, the quiet inventions often leave the deepest impressions. They shape expectations. They teach people what comfort can be. Even when forgotten, they influence what comes next. As night deepens around you, the rhythm of the story softens further. There is nothing left to resolve, no conclusion to reach. Just the gentle understanding that human ingenuity moves in cycles, discovering, forgetting, remembering again. The ancient builders who designed those systems never imagined an audience like this. They did not think of future centuries listening to their choices in whispered stories. They only thought of warmth, of shelter, of making winter a little kinder. Their work was hidden on purpose. And perhaps that is why it feels so fitting to think about it now, in this quiet space between waking and sleep. The warmth they guided beneath stone has long since cooled. The channels are empty, the fires extinguished, but the idea that comfort can be steady, silent, and shared still travels forward. It moves through time the way heat once moved through those hidden passages, slowly, evenly, without asking to be noticed. And as your breathing settles, as thoughts loosen and drift, the story continues on its own, no longer needing words. Like the ancient invention itself, it simply rests waiting, held gently beneath the surface of sleep. The stillness deepens, and the story follows it, unbroken. Long after the last fires were tended, long after the final warm breath moved through those hidden passages, the buildings themselves remained. Stone does not forget easily. It holds impressions the way the body holds memory, quietly, without effort. Even when cold returned, even when winters pressed harder against walls, something of that earlier warmth seemed to linger, not in temperature, but in intention. People repaired, reused, and rebuilt. They layered their lives over what came before, often unaware of the choices that had shaped the ground beneath them. A kitchen placed where a warm room once was. A cellar dug through what had been a heated corridor. Each generation made practical decisions, focused on the present moment, rarely pausing to ask why a space felt the way it did. In some places, floors felt oddly solid. In others, they echoed faintly when walked upon. These small details passed without comment. They became part of the background of life, like the way a certain room always stayed cooler, or a certain corner never quite dried after rain. Time moved on. Seasons returned again and again, each one familiar, each one slightly different. Winters brought quiet routines. Fires were lit. Doors were closed early. People spoke more softly indoors, conserving both heat and energy. The cold shaped conversations, shortened visits, and encouraged rest. And in that slower pace, something else emerged, an acceptance. Not every discomfort needed solving. Not every problem demanded innovation. Some things were simply endured, woven into the texture of life itself. Perhaps that, too, played a role in why the ancient invention faded. It offered ease in a world that gradually learned to expect hardship. Comfort, once shared openly in public spaces, retreated inward. It became private, personal, earned rather than assumed. Warmth gathered around families instead of communities. The idea of heating an entire building evenly felt excessive when survival itself required restraint. Still, the memory of better comfort never fully vanished. It surfaced in stories, in ruins, in the quiet satisfaction people felt when a room held warmth longer than expected. It surfaced when new methods appeared that echoed the old logic. Heat moving gently through unseen paths, distributing itself without noise. Each rediscovery felt new, yet strangely familiar, as if humanity were remembering something it had always known. And now, as this story continues its soft unfolding, there is nothing left to analyze, nothing left to prove. Only the gentle realization that progress and forgetting often walk hand in hand. The ancient invention did not fail. It rested. It waited beneath layers of time, patient and untroubled, like stone beneath soil, like embers beneath ash. And as you rest now, perhaps your own warmth feels steady, unremarkable, easy to overlook. Perhaps it hums quietly or radiates softly or simply exists without drawing attention. That too is part of the story. Comfort that asks for nothing. Warmth that does not rush. A quiet solution to a simple human need. The past has shared its secret gently tonight, not to impress, not to instruct, but to remind. And with that reminder, the story loosens its hold, allowing your thoughts to drift freely, carried not by words anymore, but by the same slow calm that once moved through ancient floors, guiding you, without effort, deeper into rest. The night stretches longer, and the story flows along with it, soft and unhurried. Even as centuries passed, even as cities rose and fell above those forgotten floors, the rhythm of life remained much the same. People woke, tended fires or stoves, prepared food, spoke quietly, and settled in for the evening. They moved at the pace that the day allowed, and the cold, when it arrived, shaped their movements, their routines, their small domestic choices. In places where the ancient system had once been, winters were now met with layers of cloth and carefully arranged furniture. Thick rugs insulated stone floors. Curtains blocked drafts. Simple ingenuity replaced the large, unseen systems of the past. Families adapted, and comfort became more localized, more intimate. And still, beneath them, traces of the old invention persisted, buried in silence. Even in abandoned buildings, where doors hung crooked and roofs had given way, remnants of those careful channels remained. Scholars centuries later would uncover them, brushing away dust and rubble, tracing their careful design. They marveled not at grandeur or wealth, but at quiet practicality, at the subtle genius that allowed warmth to flow gently, evenly, without attention. People continued to live and adapt, and the slow passing of knowledge meant that some innovations, no matter how clever, faded. Yet the idea of shaping the environment to ease daily life never disappeared. New methods appeared: fireplaces, stoves, radiators, each inspired, in some small part, by that ancient understanding of space, heat, and patience. And so, the invention story is not one of failure, but of quiet transition. It lived for centuries in the background of daily life, then stepped aside gracefully when the world changed. Its principles resurfaced in new forms, adapted to new needs, while the old methods rested beneath floors, waiting to be remembered. Even now, when you feel the gentle warmth of a room, or the way a floor holds heat from a sunbeam through the window, you are experiencing echoes of that old invention. Its influence lingers in the calm rhythm of daily. Yet there were whispers of the past in every careful bricklaying, every thoughtful design of floor and wall. Builders who remembered fragments of the ancient invention sometimes tried to recreate its subtle effects, guiding heat through chimneys, walls, or rudimentary channels beneath floors. Their efforts were uneven, experimental, and often temporary, but the principle endured. Warmth could be invisible, patient, and shared. Even as new technologies emerged, replacing fires with stoves, radiators, or central heating, the quiet logic of those ancient systems resurfaced. Modern designs still seek efficiency, even distribution, and steady comfort. Engineers study airflow, thermal mass, and insulation, echoing centuries of trial, error, and quiet understanding. What once required brick, clay, and careful planning now relies on metal pipes, hot water, and thermostats. But the essence, the desire for calm, consistent warmth, remains unchanged. And so, as the night deepens around you, you can imagine yourself walking barefoot on ancient floors, warmed silently from below, moving through bathhouses and villas, through homes filled with the gentle hum of patience. You can picture the builders, bending carefully over bricks and clay, shaping channels and pillars, tending their work not for fame or glory, but for the quiet satisfaction of creating comfort that would endure. Their labor was slow, meticulous, and unseen by most, yet it mattered, and in its quiet persistence, it offers a lesson still, that patience, subtlety, and care can shape life just as powerfully as fire or noise. And now, as your body relaxes and your thoughts begin to drift like soft smoke through a gentle winter evening, let this story of hidden warmth and patient ingenuity settle around you. Let it move softly, evenly, like the heat that once traveled beneath the floors of ancient cities, carrying you, without effort or urgency, further into rest. The past does not rush. It does not demand. Simply exists, steady, calm, and reassuring. And tonight, as you sink deeper into sleep, it surrounds you, quietly guiding you toward the same gentle warmth that shaped countless centuries before. The night deepens further, and with it, the story stretches outward like a slow, unbroken river. Imagine, if you will, stepping into one of those ancient villas, long ago, where the morning light filters through small, high windows, falling softly upon stone floors that are already warm beneath your feet. There is no rush in the air, No clamor of the city outside, only the subtle rhythm of life unfolding gently. You can hear the faint scrape of a broom across the tiled floor, the soft murmur of servants moving quietly about their morning tasks, carrying water, tending the hearth, arranging simple meals. Every sound blends into the calm, almost meditative, rhythm of a household shaped by patience and care. The warmth beneath the floors moves slowly, invisibly, through brick and clay channels, rising like a gentle breath that embraces the space without announcing itself. You notice how different it feels from a fire, how it does not demand attention, how it does not create shadows or smoke. It is the kind of comfort that slips into your bones, that encourages stillness and reflection, that makes the body and mind aware of the passage of time in a way that is quiet and restorative. Walking through such a home, you might notice the thoughtful arrangement of each room. Bedrooms are positioned to catch the rising warmth from below, so that waking in winter does not startle one with chill. Kitchens and dining areas benefit from the same careful planning, so that the day begins enveloped in gentle heat. Even spaces not used as often are considered: corridors, small libraries, and sitting rooms, all designed with an understanding of how warmth travels, how air moves, and how comfort can be distributed evenly without fuss. Imagine the builders, kneeling over clay pipes, measuring, adjusting, ensuring that every channel is clear and every stone aligned. Their labor is meticulous, patient, almost reverent, for they understand that the invisible work beneath the surface shapes the lives of countless people who may never notice it, and yet will feel it every day. Outside, the city or village hums softly. Streets are quiet in the morning, dust motes drifting in shafts of sunlight. Smoke from chimneys rises lazily, hinting at hearths that are visible and immediate, but the hidden warmth beneath floors remains the unsung hero of comfort. Merchants begin to open their shops slowly, the sound of wooden shutters creaking gently against their frames, the first customers shuffling inside, feet finding steady warmth beneath their steps. You might see a child pausing to rest their hands on a cool stone column before moving back onto the warm floor, feeling the contrast between the cold stone and the gentle heat rising beneath. It is a subtle, almost imperceptible sensation, yet one that shapes how people move, how they linger, how they experience the day. In public bathhouses, the effect is even more pronounced. Imagine a large hall, the air thick with gentle steam, the stone floors carrying warmth to every corner. People move slowly from one pool to another, conversations muted by the calm rhythm of the space, the sound of water flowing and footsteps cushioned by the radiant heat beneath. The engineers and laborers who maintain these systems are unseen, yet their presence is felt in every relaxed gesture, every prolonged stay, every moment of ease. Patrons do not marvel at the invention. It is simply part of life, as necessary and as normal as sunlight, as familiar as the sound of birds in the morning. And this quiet mastery of comfort continues, day after day, winter after winter, until centuries later, it begins to fade, not because it fails, but because the world around it changes. As the invention recedes, new ways of keeping warm take its place. Fireplaces grow larger, more visible, central to the home. Stoves appear, simple, direct, heating the air quickly, though unevenly. Thick fabrics and layered clothing become the primary method of comfort. The invisible, patient system beneath the floors becomes harder to maintain, requiring skills that are no longer widely practiced. Knowledge fragments. Builders forget the precise angles, the spacing of pillars, the subtle flow of heat through clay channels. And yet, even as it vanishes from daily life, its influence endures. The principles of even quiet heat guide later technologies, from modern radiators to underfloor heating systems rediscovered centuries later. Even in its absence, the invention leaves traces. You can walk through older homes, touch the walls, trace the stonework beneath your fingers, and feel the echo of careful thought, the imprint of centuries of human ingenuity. It is a reminder that comfort, patience, and care do not always announce themselves. They often work quietly, shaping life in ways that are only noticeable when absent. And in that quiet, in that invisible presence, there is a gentle lesson for all who encounter it, that sometimes the most profound effects are those that unfold slowly, steadily, and without fanfare. And now, as your own body begins to relax, sinking further into your resting place, imagine the warmth beneath your feet moving just as it did centuries ago. Imagine the soft flow of heat through stone and clay, rising steadily, shaping comfort without asking for attention, guiding your body into a state of ease. Let your muscles loosen, your shoulders soften, your thoughts drift as freely as the air through ancient channels. The world outside may continue, but here, in this quiet space, the rhythm is slow, gentle, and enduring. You are held by the same calm principles that guided builders and families long ago. Let it carry you like warmth through stone, deeper and deeper into rest. Would you like me to continue the next long passage, keeping the same immersive multi-paragraph flow until we progress further into the centuries and the eventual rediscovery of the system? The calm stretches on, and the story drifts further into the slow passage of centuries. In small towns and villages, the traces of the invention lingered beneath worn floors, hidden from sight. Children ran across stone that no longer carried warmth, pressing their tiny hands to cold surfaces as if to awaken something long forgotten. The adults, absorbed in daily routines, barely noticed the absence, for life had adapted to the chill. Thick woolens, layered garments, and carefully arranged hearths replaced the subtle, pervasive warmth of the old system. Even so, in quiet moments, when the air was still and the household rested, the memory of warmth beneath the floor seemed to echo faintly, a soft reminder of a gentler comfort once taken for granted. In more prosperous homes, attempts were occasionally made to recreate the forgotten invention. A few careful builders experimented with channels beneath floors or small furnaces hidden in cellars, imagining the slow rise of heat through stone. These efforts were uneven. Some succeeded partially, producing rooms that felt warmer, yet lacked the evenness of the original system. Others failed, leaving damp or cold pockets in unexpected corners. It was a delicate balance, requiring skill, patience, and precise planning, qualities that became increasingly rare as life's pace quickened and priorities shifted. Meanwhile, daily routines in ordinary households reflected the slow withdrawal of the ancient invention. Kitchens became central points of warmth, and people lingered near fires not out of luxury but necessity. Conversations softened around the flickering glow of hearth flames. Children huddled beneath blankets, and animals pressed close for heat. Floors, once warm, became cold reminders of a different era, yet life adapted. The rhythm of winter slowed the pace of activity, encouraging early nights, longer rest, and quiet contemplation. People learned to move gently, to speak softly, and to notice small details. The sun catching a window pane, the draft from a slightly open door, the subtle difference in temperature near a wall. Even public spaces reflected this change. Bathhouses, which had once relied on the slow, even heating of floors, adapted to smaller fires and simpler designs. Pools were heated unevenly, and patrons became accustomed to selecting areas that were warmer or cooler. The gentle luxury of the old invention was replaced by practicality and expedience. Yet, the architecture itself, thick walls, raised floors, and careful placement of rooms, continued to carry echoes of the past, hints of a time when warmth traveled silently through stone, touching everything without announcement. As centuries passed, the knowledge of how to build and maintain these systems became more fragmented. Craftsmen who had once trained for years now passed down only partial instructions. Some techniques were lost entirely. Written records survived in careful, dusty manuscripts, but their instructions were technical, obscure, and inaccessible to most. The invention, once integrated into the very fabric of daily life, became a curiosity, studied by a few scholars rather than practiced by many. Yet even in its decline, the invention's influence persisted. New technologies, though different in form, carried its principles: the desire for even, steady warmth, the careful planning of space to support comfort, the subtle understanding that heat, like life, could move slowly, consistently, and invisibly. Engineers centuries later, examining old ruins, would trace the paths of clay pipes and stone channels, marveling at the ingenuity that allowed warmth to flow through an entire building without fire or smoke intruding into the space. They would recognize the care and patience embedded in every layer of brick, every pillar supporting the floor above. In quiet moments today, one can still imagine the sensation of walking across a heated floor, bare feet pressing onto stone, warmth rising gently with every step. Conversations flowing in rooms softly lit by candle or sunlight, the air steady, neither too hot nor too cold. There is a deep, calming rhythm to this image, one that reminds us that the simplest forms of comfort are often the most profound. And as your breathing slows further, as your body settles into stillness, allow yourself to feel that ancient calm. The world outside your window continues in its noisy pace, but here, within the memory of stone, clay, and patient design, there is only quiet. The warmth travels gently beneath your imagined feet, carrying a sense of safety, of care, of steady patience. The centuries may have passed, but this sensation endures, a quiet echo of human ingenuity, shaping comfort in a soft, invisible way. The story continues to drift forward, as unhurried as heat beneath stone, carrying with it the sense that some inventions, even when forgotten, leave traces that ripple quietly through time. They remind us that life need not always be loud, and that care, patience, and gentle design can shape the world in ways both unseen and enduring. The centuries rolled onward, and the world changed slowly above those quiet floors. Cities grew, then shrank. Empires rose and fell. Streets were rebuilt, roofs replaced, and new generations walked where the old warmth had once flowed. Yet, beneath the surface, traces of that invention remained, hidden and patient, like a quiet heartbeat waiting to be felt again. In later centuries, scholars and builders began to stumble upon hints of what had been. During renovations or excavations, a worker might pry up a stone slab and find hollow channels beneath, carefully aligned brick pillars supporting the floor above. Clay pipes, once carrying heated air, lay dusty and empty, their purpose obscured by time. The discovery would inspire curiosity, careful study, and admiration, even if practical use seemed distant. Slowly, the logic of the old system revealed itself. Warmth could be guided gently, rising through channels and spaces without fire intruding into the room, shaping the environment invisibly, patiently. Meanwhile, daily life above these silent channels had adapted entirely. In modest homes, thick rugs cushioned stone floors. Fires burned in hearths, sometimes small, sometimes large, drawing families close in their gentle glow. People moved slowly during winter mornings, tending clothing, tending animals, tending meals. Every motion was measured by the cold outside and the warmth within. The absence of the hidden system changed habits subtly. Beds were arranged differently, kitchens placed strategically near fires, and social interactions often revolved around areas of consistent warmth. Even in public spaces, echoes of the invention's logic persisted. In bathhouses and civic buildings, rooms were designed to capture sunlight, trap heat, or funnel smoke and fire in ways that distributed warmth more evenly. Builders and architects, even if unaware of the ancient methods, relied on intuition honed over generations. The subtle principles of careful planning, steady distribution, and patient observation continued, woven into walls, floors, and ceilings, shaping life without overt recognition. As modernity crept closer, new technologies began to mirror the ancient invention's core ideas. Hot water pipes replaced air channels, boilers replaced furnaces, radiators replaced open hearths. And yet, the logic remained: warmth moves slowly, evenly, invisibly, shaping comfort without demanding notice. Engineers rediscovering these ideas often marveled at the efficiency and thoughtfulness of the old methods, realizing that centuries of trial and careful observation had anticipated solutions we now regard as modern. The story of the invention, though largely forgotten by daily life, carries a quiet lesson. Not all progress requires abandonment, and not all loss is dramatic. Some innovations fade softly, leaving traces that continue to influence the world, even when their original forms are gone. The hidden floors of ancient villas, bathhouses, and public halls offer this lesson quietly. They remind us that the most profound effects are often those that unfold slowly, patiently, and without spectacle. And now, as you lie still, perhaps under the gentle hum of modern warmth, imagine stepping onto a floor that carries its own heat, rising softly, unnoticed. Feel the calm that it imparts. Sense the rhythm of life in harmony with a patient invention. Let your body sink deeper into the surface beneath you, just as the heat once traveled steadily through stone. In these quiet moments, the invention becomes more than history. It becomes a companion to your rest, a soft presence that shapes your environment without urgency, without need for attention. And as sleep draws closer, let this knowledge carry with you, that even when inventions fade, their influence lingers, shaping life gently, steadily, invisibly, as it always has. The story continues, as unhurried as the flow of warmth through hidden channels, guiding you deeper into stillness, into calm, into rest. The centuries continued to pass, carrying change slowly across the lands where the invention had once been a quiet, steady presence. Cities were rebuilt, streets rerouted, roofs replaced, and new generations walked above floors that once carried gentle warmth beneath their steps. Most people no longer remembered how it worked, or even that it had existed. Yet, in subtle ways, its influence lingered, in the way homes were arranged, in the careful placement of hearths, in the understanding that warmth could, and perhaps should, move through space thoughtfully, evenly, and patiently. In modest homes, families adjusted to the cold with layers of wool, thick curtains, and strategically placed fires. Kitchens became the center of activity, not just for cooking but for warmth. Children learned where to sit to catch the heat, and elders found their favorite spots near hearths where the warmth lingered longest. Even without the hidden system, the lessons of careful planning persisted. Comfort was still about patience, awareness, and consideration for the spaces people inhabited. Public buildings, too, adapted. Bathhouses, which had once relied on the invisible movement of heated air beneath their floors, now depended on more visible methods: open furnaces, small pools heated individually, stone floors that remained cool except near the fire. Patrons became more mindful of their surroundings, moving slowly to the warmer areas, adjusting their routines to suit the limitations of the space. And yet, architects still designed with an understanding, however unconscious, of how heat could move, how rooms could retain it, how comfort could be cultivated with care. Even as the invention receded from practical use, it inspired curiosity among scholars and engineers. They examined ruins, brushing dust from brick pillars, tracing channels that once carried warm air, and marveling at the quiet ingenuity of those who had designed them. These discoveries were meticulous, deliberate, and patient, much like the invention itself. In the sketches and notes of later engineers, the logic of slow, steady, invisible warmth resurfaced, influencing modern approaches to heating long before it became practical or widespread. In daily life, people adapted around the absence of the invention, learning to accept a certain level of chill as part of winter's rhythm. Thick clothing, layered bedding, and warm hearths provided comfort, even if it was uneven. Daily routines were shaped by the movement of light and the availability of firewood. Conversations were quieter, movements more measured, nights longer and slower. The pace of life itself became a reflection of the patient logic once embedded in stone beneath their feet. Yet the ancient invention never truly disappeared. Its essence, the careful, patient shaping of comfort, persisted in the design of spaces, in the distribution of heat, in the very rhythm of human life. Modern engineers would later recognize the same principles in underfloor heating, radiant panels, and careful insulation. The invisible movement of warmth had returned, adapted to new technologies, but carrying the same quiet wisdom that had guided builders centuries before. And now, as you rest and sink further into the softness of your surroundings, imagine walking across a floor that rises gently in warmth beneath your feet. Imagine the still, steady movement of heat, unseen but present, shaping comfort without demand, moving with patience through every step. Let the calm of centuries past settle around you, guiding you deeper into rest, into quiet, into ease. Life, much like the warmth beneath those floors, continues gently, persistently, and without urgency. And in this soft persistence, there is a calm, a reassurance, a reminder that some of the greatest comforts are those that work quietly, steadily, and invisibly. As the story drifts onward, and the night carries you further into sleep, time continued its quiet rhythm, carrying the world forward while the memory of the ancient invention rested beneath layers of stone, soil, and human activity. Cities changed, streets shifted, buildings rose and fell. People came and went, unaware of the warmth that had once flowed silently beneath their feet. Yet in subtle ways, its influence remained, a gentle echo in the way humans thought about comfort and space. In rural homes, winter mornings were measured by the frost on windows, the softness of rugs underfoot, and the steady presence of a central hearth. Families moved slowly, performing familiar tasks with careful attention, knowing which areas of a room held the most warmth and adjusting accordingly. Children learned these patterns intuitively, finding comfort in the predictable rhythm of daily life. And though the ancient invention no longer heated these spaces, its legacy persisted in these routines. An understanding that comfort could be shaped thoughtfully, and that warmth, whether literal or metaphorical, required awareness and care. Even in towns, the lessons remained embedded in architecture. Builders continued to favor stone, brick, and clay, materials that retained heat longer, that held warmth once it was introduced. Windows were placed strategically to catch sunlight. Walls and floors were designed with thickness and density in mind. The logic of even distribution, of subtle guidance of heat, lingered like a soft hum beneath everyday life. People adapted to their environment, learning to move slowly, speak softly, and conserve energy. All practices that echoed the patient wisdom of those who had designed the original system. In the larger world, engineers and scholars gradually rediscovered fragments of this wisdom. During renovations, workers would uncover the hollow channels beneath stone floors, dusty pipes, and carefully arranged brick supports. Scholars traced these designs, mapping the paths of heat that had once flowed freely, imagining barefoot steps across gently warmed stone. These studies revealed not only technical ingenuity but also a profound understanding of daily human needs, the way a space could nurture comfort without force, without spectacle. Even as technology advanced, the principles endured. Radiators, hot water pipes, and modern underfloor heating systems all echo the ancient design. Heat moving steadily, invisibly, shaping the experience of a room without drawing attention. The same patient logic guides modern engineers as it guided builders centuries before. Attention to placement, to flow, to the gentle movement of warmth. And now, as you rest, let your imagination move with the story. Picture yourself walking across a floor that warms beneath your feet, the heat rising silently, wrapping your body in calm. Imagine the quiet presence of ancient knowledge guiding you, just as it guided countless generations before. Every step, every breath, every sensation is shaped by this soft, unhurried rhythm. The invention itself may have faded from view, but its essence remains. Patience, care, and subtlety persist, quietly shaping life, even now. And as your body relaxes further, as your mind drifts and your thoughts slow, let the calm of this story settle around you, carrying you gently, steadily, deeper into rest, into the quiet embrace of the night. The story, like warmth beneath stone, continues patient and unobserved, guiding you ever further into sleep. The centuries stretched on, carrying the world ever forward, while the memory of the ancient invention rested quietly beneath layers of time. Above, life moved with the rhythm of seasons, harvests in the fields, frost forming on window panes, winter winds whispering through streets. Homes adapted, families adjusted, and warmth became a matter of care and habit rather than invisible engineering. Yet, beneath it all, the principle endured. Comfort could be patient, steady, and thoughtfully distributed, even if it was no longer consciously practiced. Imagine a modest village in late medieval times. The stone and timber homes are clustered close together, their roofs dusted with frost in the morning. Inside, families rise slowly. A mother tends the hearth, feeding it small pieces of wood, coaxing gentle flames to life. Children shuffle across thick rugs, the chill of the morning absorbed gradually by their layered clothing. The floors themselves are cold, yet there is comfort here, derived from learned routines, from the careful arrangement of space, from the quiet attention paid to warmth wherever it is available. The absence of the old. Invention has shaped new ways of living, but it has not removed the human desire for steady comfort, nor the subtle understanding that warmth can be guided and preserved. In more prosperous homes, remnants of the old system sometimes surface unexpectedly. A renovated floor might reveal a hollow channel, a trace of clay pipes, or a carefully laid brick pillar. Builders pause, curious, tracing the lines with their hands, imagining the invisible flow of air that once carried heat through every corner. Scholars in their studies later sketch these finds, writing down measurements, observing patterns, and slowly reconstructing the careful planning of those long-gone engineers. It is meticulous work, patient and quiet, much like the invention itself. Even as the world moves forward, patterns of careful thought and subtle control persist. In architecture, walls retain heat. Stone floors are layered to hold warmth. Windows are placed to catch sunlight and preserve it through the day. The principles of even distribution, thoughtful design, and slow, consistent comfort continue to guide human life, even when the methods have changed. Modern heating systems, radiant panels, and underfloor technologies echo these old logics, carrying the spirit of patient warmth into new forms. And now, as your own body continues to sink deeper into rest, imagine stepping once again into those spaces. Feel the subtle rise of heat beneath your feet, slow and steady, like the heartbeat of centuries past. Hear the soft murmur of a household moving at its own gentle pace. A broom across the stone, quiet voices in conversation, the occasional crackle of a small fire tending to its own rhythm. Let yourself become part of that calm, that careful observation of life unfolding slowly and patiently, without hurry, without demand. The invention, though hidden, teaches stillness. It teaches patience. It reminds us that some of the most profound effects are those that move quietly, invisibly, steadily, shaping experience without announcement. As you listen, allow this gentle lesson to settle within you, guiding your mind and body deeper into ease, into tranquility, into the soft embrace of sleep. And so the story drifts onward, like warmth traveling through channels long forgotten, steady and unhurried, carrying you further into the quiet, steady calm of the night. Time moves slowly now, as the story drifts further into the long passage of centuries. The invention, though largely forgotten, left traces beneath cities and homes that continued to shape human life in subtle ways. Even as new generations walked across floors without warmth rising beneath them, the principles of careful planning, patient attention, and steady comfort persisted in architecture, in daily routines, and in the quiet understanding of how to live with the seasons. In villages, mornings were slow and deliberate. The frost clung to windows, and the cold air pressed gently against walls and ceilings. Families rose from beds layered with blankets, moving carefully to preserve heat. Fires and hearths were tended with attention, wood added bit by bit to maintain a steady, gentle glow. Children learned intuitively where to stand, where to sit, which spots offered warmth and which were cooler. These small adjustments, so ordinary to daily life, echoed the subtle logic of the ancient invention. Comfort was cultivated patiently, thoughtfully, and deliberately. Even in larger towns and cities, the legacy of the invention persisted. Architects and builders instinctively arranged rooms to capture sunlight, to retain warmth, and to distribute heat where it would matter most. Thick walls, layered floors, and dense stonework were favored, holding what heat was introduced for longer periods. Public spaces, halls, bathhouses, meeting rooms, were designed to accommodate human movement in ways that allowed heat to linger, spreading gradually and evenly across the room. Though the original system of channels and pipes was gone, its philosophy endured. Warmth was not just about immediate relief, but about shaping experience over time. Scholars of later centuries began to notice fragments of the old system. During renovations, workers discovered hidden channels beneath floors, hollow spaces between bricks, and traces of clay pipes that once carried warm air. Curious minds sketched diagrams, measured distances, and imagined the invisible flow that had once moved through every corner of a building. These studies revealed not only technical skill but also a profound understanding of daily life, that comfort is best provided quietly, consistently, and without demand. As the modern era approached, new methods for heating buildings emerged. Boilers, radiators, and underfloor systems carried the same principles forward, though with different materials and technologies. Heat could now be produced and distributed more quickly, controlled with precision, but the subtle wisdom of patience, of designing spaces that naturally retained warmth, remained embedded in human thinking. Modern engineers unknowingly followed in the footsteps of builders who had long ago shaped air and stone to move together in harmony. And now, as you rest more deeply, imagine stepping barefoot onto an ancient stone floor, feeling warmth rise slowly beneath your feet. Hear the soft murmur of a household moving in gentle rhythm. Footsteps muffled by rugs, voices softened by distance, the occasional crackle of a carefully tended fire. Sense the steady pulse of warmth and care that once shaped entire buildings, moving invisibly but profoundly through space. Let it settle around you, carrying a calm patience into your body and mind. The invention, though centuries old, is alive in memory, in principle, in quiet influence. Its lessons of patience, care, and subtle design guide us still, reminding us that the most enduring comfort is often that which works silently, steadily, and with gentle persistence. And as the story continues, slow and unbroken, let it carry you further, deeper into the quiet calm of night, into the soft, steady warmth that cradles both history and your own rest. The passage of centuries is gentle, almost imperceptible, yet it carries with it countless shifts in daily life, in homes and streets, in the rhythm of human existence. Above the hidden channels of the ancient invention, generations came and went, each adapting to the cold in their own quiet ways. Thick woolens, layered blankets, carefully placed hearths, and thoughtful furniture arrangement became the new methods of comfort. And still, the invisible logic of the old system persisted, quietly influencing the way humans approached warmth and space, even without conscious knowledge of its origins. Imagine a modest manor in late medieval times. Sunlight filters softly through small windows, falling on stone floors that no longer carry heat from beneath. A household stirs slowly. The cook tends a low fire in the kitchen, stirring a pot of gruel, its steam curling lazily into the air. Children move barefoot across cold floors, pressing hands to hearths and rugs for gentle warmth. Every action is measured by the environment. Which spot is warmer, which area cooler, how best to conserve comfort. Even without the hidden system, life continues in careful rhythm, echoing the patient logic that guided builders centuries before. In larger towns, streets are quiet in the early hours. Smoke rises from chimneys, hinting at hearths within, while merchants begin to open shops and tradespeople move slowly to their workspaces. Buildings are constructed with thick stone, dense brick, and layered floors, all materials chosen for their ability to retain warmth. Public spaces like bathhouses, guild halls, and meeting rooms are arranged to catch light and heat where possible, allowing visitors to find comfort even in the absence of the sophisticated heating channels of antiquity. The principles of distribution, patient design, and thoughtful planning remain, shaping the experience of space without needing to be explicitly remembered. Scholars and builders of later centuries occasionally stumbled upon the traces of the old invention. Hollow floors, brick pillars, clay pipes, and channels revealed the ingenuity of a time when warmth moved invisibly through stone and air. Diagrams were drawn, careful measurements recorded, and the silent logic of centuries-old comfort began to inspire new methods of heating. Even as new technologies emerged, the underlying principles, steady warmth, patient distribution, careful planning, continued to guide human ingenuity. In daily life, these lessons persisted subtly. People learned to move slowly and deliberately in winter, to cluster around sources of heat, to conserve warmth wherever possible. Beds were arranged to capture lingering heat from fires, kitchens became gathering spaces, and conversations softened around carefully tended hearths. Life unfolded in quiet rhythms, shaped by both the presence and the absence of the old invention. The patient design of warmth had become woven into human behavior, influencing movement, habits, and awareness of the surrounding environment. And now, as you continue to rest, imagine once again the sensation of warmth rising slowly beneath stone floors, soft and steady. Picture the quiet rhythm of daily life centuries ago. The gentle scrape of broom across stone, the muffled footsteps of children, the faint hum of a fire maintained with care. Allow the calm of this invisible, patient invention to surround you, guiding your body and mind into deeper relaxation. Even as the centuries have passed, the lessons endure. That comfort, when applied thoughtfully, can shape life in subtle, steady ways. That patience and quiet attention can be more profound than immediacy. And that the most enduring warmth often moves unseen, like the invisible flow beneath the floors of long-gone cities. The night deepens, stretching silently across centuries and landscapes, and the story flows gently alongside it. The invention, though long hidden, continues to leave its imprint in the quiet rhythms of human life, even where no trace of its brick channels or clay pipes remains visible. Homes, streets, and public spaces adapted to the absence of the invisible warmth. Yet the principles of careful design, patient observation, and steady comfort continued to shape life, subtly guiding the way people lived, moved, and rested. In small villages, the winter mornings are slow and deliberate. Frost clings to window panes, and the chill lingers in the corners of stone-floored rooms. Families rise in layers of blankets and wool, moving carefully across floors that carry only the modest warmth of a well-tended hearth. Mothers and fathers feed small fires with measured pieces of wood, coaxing gentle flames to life, and the children learn instinctively where to stand, where to linger, and how to gather warmth. Every movement, every small decision, reflects the quiet inheritance of a system that once distributed comfort evenly and silently. The past is present in these subtle patterns, shaping life in ways almost invisible, yet profoundly familiar. Even in larger towns and modest cities, the echoes of the invention persist. Builders instinctively favor materials that retain heat: thick stone walls, dense brickwork, floors layered with timber and straw. Windows are positioned to capture sunlight and preserve warmth throughout the day. Public spaces such as bathhouses, guild halls, and meeting rooms are arranged to allow visitors to find comfortable corners, rooms that hold heat longer, and areas where firelight lingers. Though the original system of hidden channels is gone, its philosophy survives. Warmth is best experienced when distributed thoughtfully, patiently, and invisibly. Over the centuries, fragments of the old invention reemerge unexpectedly. Renovations reveal hollow floors, brick pillars, and clay channels, once carrying heat silently through spaces. Scholars, curious and meticulous, measure, sketch, and record, tracing the invisible logic that guided builders so many generations before. They see in these discoveries not merely technical skill but a profound understanding of human life, of comfort that does not demand attention, of warmth that nurtures without intrusion. The rediscovery of such wisdom reminds us that even inventions forgotten by daily life continue to shape our world, quietly influencing design, behavior, and thought. Daily life, shaped by both presence and absence, carries echoes of the invention. People arrange furniture, place bedding, and select spots within rooms with subtle care. Kitchens, once spaces of warmth from hearth and human activity, become centers for gathering, discussion, and movement. Steps across floors are measured, conversations softened, and routines adjusted to conserve heat. The world moves more slowly, deliberately, guided by patterns that echo the patient logic of centuries past. Even small, unnoticed decisions, the placement of a chair, the choice to linger near a window where sunlight strikes, the angle of a blanket folded over a sleeping child, all reflect the lessons of thoughtful design inherited from a system now largely invisible. In more prosperous homes, the traces of the ancient invention occasionally surface. A channel discovered beneath newly replaced flooring, a hollow space beneath stone, or a brick pillar once hidden by timber and rugs hints at a time when warmth traveled without notice, yet influenced every step, every movement, every resting moment. Builders and scholars, drawn to these fragments, trace the invisible flow with hands and imagination, envisioning rooms gently heated through the careful arrangement of stone, brick, and air. The ingenuity of these past creators is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet deeply profound. Comfort shaped patiently, steadily, invisibly. As centuries pass and technology evolves, the principles endure. Modern underfloor heating, radiators, and climate control systems echo the logic of the old invention. Warmth that is steady, even, and unobtrusive. Today, engineers and architects may apply these principles without knowing their origins, yet they are guided by the same patient logic that shaped life long ago. Every layer of insulation, every thoughtful placement of piping, every careful design of airflow carries forward the legacy of a quiet understanding of comfort. Now, as you settle deeper into rest, imagine the sensation of warmth rising slowly beneath stone floors, soft and steady, just as it did for countless generations before. Hear the faint murmur of a household moving gently through its rooms, the soft scrape of broom across stone, muted footsteps of children, the occasional whisper of conversation near a hearth. Sense the invisible flow of heat that once guided life so subtly, influencing behavior, comfort, and calm. Let it surround you, carrying you further into stillness, deeper into ease, and into the quiet pulse of rest. Even as time continues its unhurried rhythm, the lessons of the invention endure. That comfort is often most profound when it moves quietly, steadily, and without demand. that patience and attention can shape experience more deeply than immediacy, that some of the greatest effects are those that unfold invisibly, guiding life with gentle, persistent care. And so, as you breathe more deeply and allow your body to sink further into softness, the story drifts on, like warmth traveling beneath. Floors long forgotten, slow, patient, and serene, carrying you ever deeper into the quiet embrace of night and the gentle calm of sleep. The centuries unfolded quietly, layering experiences and generations above the ancient channels that once carried warmth through stone and clay. The invention, though largely forgotten by daily life, remained embedded in the rhythm of human habitation, shaping the way people moved, rested, and sought comfort. Even as technology and architecture evolved, the principles of careful planning, patient design, and steady warmth persisted, flowing silently beneath floors, through walls, and into the consciousness of builders and inhabitants alike. Imagine a small village in the late medieval era, where frost lingers on window panes and early morning light filters softly through wooden shutters. The air is crisp, carrying the faint smell of wood smoke from neighboring homes. Inside, families rise gradually, moving slowly across stone floors layered with rugs, their bare feet sensing the cold beneath. Fires are tended carefully, small pieces of wood added to maintain a gentle, consistent heat rather than a blazing fire. Children, guided by experience rather than instruction, know instinctively where to stand, which areas retain warmth longer, and how to move through the space to preserve comfort. Every gesture, every choice, reflects the legacy of an invention that once shaped entire buildings without needing to be seen or acknowledged. In wealthier homes, the traces of the old system occasionally emerge during renovations. A hollow floor here, a brick pillar there, or a faint clay channel discovered beneath newly replaced stone hints at a time when warmth traveled silently, evenly, and invisibly through the very fabric of the house. Builders and scholars alike pause to study these fragments, tracing their paths, sketching their forms, and imagining the flow of heat that once moved freely beneath footsteps and furniture. These discoveries reveal not only technical ingenuity but also a profound understanding of human needs. Comfort that nurtures without intruding, warmth that guides without demanding attention. Public spaces, too, continue to reflect the subtle influence of this ancient invention. Bathhouses, guild halls, and meeting rooms are designed with intuition informed by centuries of observation. Thick walls, layered floors, and strategic placement of windows and doors retain warmth, allowing occupants to find comfort in spaces that are otherwise exposed to winter's chill. Patrons adjust their movements, choosing corners that hold heat longer, lingering where warmth accumulates, following patterns established long before by the patient logic of builders who understood that heat could be guided thoughtfully and gently. Even as technology progresses, these principles persist. Modern underfloor heating, radiators, and central climate systems all echo the logic of the ancient invention. Engineers, whether aware of history or not, apply the same patient principles. Heat that moves steadily, evenly, and without distraction, creating spaces that feel naturally comfortable. The invisible flow of warmth beneath floors today mirrors the work of builders centuries ago, connecting past and present through subtle, enduring logic. And now, as your body relaxes further into the comfort of your bed or chair, imagine stepping onto a floor that carries warmth beneath your feet, slowly rising, steady and quiet. Hear the soft murmur of life around you. Footsteps cushioned by rugs, faint whispers of conversation, the occasional crackle of a fire tending itself patiently in a hearth. Feel the heat move invisibly, guiding your steps, settling around you, creating an environment that invites calm, reflection, and rest. Let the centuries of care and thought settle around your shoulders, easing tension, releasing worry, and inviting deep, unhurried relaxation. The invention, though centuries old, teaches enduring lessons. That comfort is most profound when it works invisibly, patiently, and without demand. That patience and subtle design can shape experience more deeply than immediacy. And that some of the quietest achievements leave the longest-lasting impressions. In this way, the warmth beneath floors becomes a metaphor, a gentle reminder that life can be guided by steady, calm forces that do not need recognition to matter profoundly. As the night stretches further, let this gentle flow of warmth and wisdom wrap around you. Allow your breathing to slow, your muscles to soften, and your mind to drift alongside the story. Imagine centuries of human care, ingenuity, and quiet patience settling into the room with you, creating a cocoon of calm. Each moment of stillness draws you deeper into the embrace of rest, into the soft, steady warmth that has traveled invisibly through countless generations. Even as the story continues, it requires no conclusion, no dramatic turning, no sudden revelation. Like heat beneath stone, like the invention itself, it moves quietly, steadily, shaping experience through patience and persistence. Allow yourself to follow its rhythm, letting your thoughts drift, your body release tension, and your mind sink further into calm. And as you rest, imagine the invisible channels beneath floors stretching endlessly, moving slowly through cities and villages, through centuries, guiding warmth where it is needed, carrying the quiet wisdom of countless hands and minds who shaped comfort without fanfare. Feel the presence of those centuries of care surrounding you, steady and unhurried, and let it carry you gently, persistently, deeper into the quiet calm of night and the gentle embrace of sleep. The night stretches on, unbroken, carrying centuries of quiet change above the hidden channels of the ancient invention. Life continues, as it always has, slowly and deliberately, shaped in subtle ways by the patient logic of builders long gone. Even where no trace of stone or clay remains visible, their understanding of warmth, care, and comfort continues to guide human habits, architecture, and daily life. In small villages, winter mornings are soft and deliberate. Frost clings lightly to window panes, and the air carries the faint scent of wood smoke drifting from hearths. Families rise gradually, moving carefully across floors layered with straw, rugs, or timber. Fires are tended with gentle attention, small pieces of wood coaxing steady warmth into kitchens and living spaces. Children instinctively learn where to stand and where to linger, which areas of the room hold heat longest. Every movement, every adjustment, is a quiet reflection of the invisible wisdom that once guided warmth through stone channels centuries before. In towns, the streets are hushed under the early light of day. Merchants open their shops, footsteps soft against stone or wooden pathways, smoke curling lazily from chimneys into the cold air. Public spaces like bathhouses, guild halls, and meeting rooms are arranged intuitively to capture warmth and light, allowing visitors to find comfort even without the sophisticated heating channels of antiquity. Patrons move slowly, following the logic of space, gathering where heat lingers, adjusting routines to suit the environment. The principle of even, patient comfort continues to shape life, quietly guiding behavior and perception. In wealthier homes, remnants of the old invention occasionally reappear. A hollow floor beneath a newly replaced stone slab, a brick pillar hidden beneath layers of timber and rugs, or a faint clay pipe discovered behind a wall hints at a time when warmth moved silently through every corner of a building. Builders, scholars, and curious observers trace these paths, imagining the invisible flow of heat that once moved beneath feet and furniture. The ingenuity of the past is subtle, unassuming, yet profoundly impactful. Warmth distributed thoughtfully, evenly, and patiently, shaping experience without spectacle. Over time, technology advances, and new methods of heating emerge. Boilers, radiators, and underfloor heating systems echo the logic of the ancient invention. Modern engineers, whether aware of the history or not, follow the same principles. Heat moves steadily, invisibly, guiding comfort without demand or attention. The legacy of centuries-old design persists, connecting past and present through the quiet, enduring logic of careful observation, patience, and subtle influence. Even in daily life, these lessons remain. People adjust furniture and bedding to conserve warmth. Kitchens become gathering spaces, firelight guiding conversations and movements. Steps across floors are measured, voices softened, routines adapted to the natural ebb and flow of heat. The absence of the old invention teaches awareness, patience, and subtle adjustment, echoing the quiet intelligence of builders who understood the value of slow, invisible work. Now, imagine yourself walking barefoot across a floor that rises gently with warmth beneath your feet. Hear the soft murmur of life around you, the scraping of a broom on stone, muted footsteps, the faint crackle of a carefully tended fire. Feel the invisible heat wrap around you, steady and unhurried, carrying calm through your body and mind. Sense the centuries of care, observation, and subtle design settling around you, guiding you into deeper ease, into stillness, into rest. The invention, though centuries old, teaches timeless lessons. That comfort is most profound when it works quietly, steadily, and without demand. That patient, subtle design can shape experience more deeply than immediate or obvious interventions. And that some of the most lasting influences move unseen, yet touch every moment of life as your breathing slows, as your muscles soften, as your mind drifts in rhythm with the story. Imagine the invisible channels beneath floors stretching endlessly. Through time, carrying warmth steadily, invisibly, and patiently. Imagine centuries of hands and minds shaping comfort without fanfare, guiding experience in ways that are profoundly gentle and enduring. Let this presence surround you, calm you, and carry you ever deeper into the quiet, soft embrace of night and the gentle drift of sleep. The centuries unfolded slowly, carrying with them generations of builders, families, and scholars, each unaware of how deeply the ancient invention still shaped life. Beneath their feet, the quiet channels of warmth lay hidden, patient and unobserved, yet still influencing the rhythm of daily existence. Even as technology advanced, even as firewood and hearths became supplemented by stoves, boilers, and radiators, the subtle logic of patient distribution, careful planning, and even comfort continued to ripple through human experience. Imagine a late 18th century town, quiet in the early morning light. Snow dusts the rooftops and frost glimmers on window panes. Inside modest homes, families rise gradually. Children shuffle across floors, feeling the cold beneath their feet, learning instinctively where warmth collects near hearths and stoves. Fires are tended carefully, each log added with thought, coaxing a gentle, steady heat that fills kitchens and living rooms. The rhythm of daily life is shaped by the presence and absence of warmth. Movement slows, voices soften, and small gestures. Covering a chair with a blanket, moving closer to a fire, lingering in a sunbeam, become ordinary acts of comfort. In wealthier homes, remnants of the ancient invention occasionally resurface. During renovations, a worker might uncover a hollow floor, a clay channel, or a brick pillar once hidden beneath rugs and timber. Scholars study these fragments, tracing the invisible paths through which heat once flowed, marveling at the ingenuity and patience required to guide comfort so subtly and completely. The principle is simple yet profound. Warmth can be shaped, guided, and distributed thoughtfully, enhancing life without drawing attention to itself. Public spaces reflect the same careful logic. Bathhouses, civic halls, and meeting rooms are designed to preserve heat, even if only through material choice, window placement, or wall thickness. Patrons learn over generations where warmth lingers, moving through space in subtle patterns passed down almost instinctively. Life unfolds slowly and deliberately, guided by invisible principles, quietly reinforcing the idea that comfort is most enduring when it is patient, steady, and unassuming. As the modern era dawns, engineers and architects rediscover the wisdom embedded in these ancient systems. Underfloor heating, central heating, and radiant panels echo the same principles. Heat is introduced gradually, distributed evenly, and maintained consistently. The lessons of centuries-old builders, patience, observation, subtlety, resurface in contemporary design. Modern homes, offices, and public buildings carry forward the legacy of careful planning, connecting past and present through invisible warmth that shapes experience quietly, profoundly, and without notice. Even in daily life, the echoes of the invention persist. People instinctively move to the warmest parts of a room, arrange furniture to conserve heat, and cluster near sources of steady warmth. Kitchens, hearths, and sunlit spaces become centers of calm and community, their quiet influence guiding behavior in ways unnoticed but deeply felt. The rhythm of life, once shaped directly by invisible channels beneath floors, continues to be shaped indirectly by the same principles: patience, thoughtfulness, and steady attention to comfort. Now, as you rest, imagine yourself walking across a floor that rises gently with warmth beneath your feet. Hear the muted murmur of life around you, the soft scrape of a broom, the faint footsteps of someone moving through the house, the gentle crackle of a fire that has been coaxed to life carefully and deliberately. Feel the warmth surround you, slow and steady, like centuries of care settling softly into the room. Sense the invisible currents beneath floors, the careful planning, the patience of builders long gone, carrying a quiet rhythm that mirrors the natural pace of your breathing, your heartbeat, and your mind. The invention, though hidden for centuries, continues to teach that true comfort often works quietly, patiently, and without demand, that subtlety and care can shape life more profoundly than immediacy, and that some of the most enduring influence is invisible, yet touches every movement, every moment, every day. The centuries continue their quiet flow, carrying change slowly across cities, villages, and countryside alike. Above the hidden channels of warmth, life unfolds in its unhurried rhythms. Streets are built and rebuilt, roofs replaced, hearths tended, and generations of people rise and fall with the steady beat of daily life. Yet, beneath floors and beneath memory, the ancient invention quietly persists, guiding the subtle choreography of comfort, even when its origins have long been forgotten. In small villages during cold winters, mornings are hushed and deliberate. Frost clings to the glass of narrow windows, sunlight spills weakly through shutters, and the air carries the faint scent of burning wood. Families rise gradually, moving across stone floors layered with straw, rushes, or worn rugs. Fires are coaxed to life carefully, logs added in measured increments, and the warmth spreads gently, never overwhelming, filling kitchens, bedrooms, and hallways with a soft presence. Children instinctively know which spots are warmer, which areas to linger in, and how to navigate the chill. Every gesture is informed by centuries of experience, a subtle echo of a system that once shaped warmth invisibly through stone and clay channels. In towns, streets remain quiet as shopkeepers lift shutters and tradespeople shuffle along frost-lined paths. The architecture itself reflects inherited understanding. Thick stone walls hold residual heat from daylight. Layered floors slow the loss of warmth. Windows are placed strategically to capture sun and minimize drafts. Public buildings, bathhouses, meeting halls, guild rooms continue to be designed to retain heat as long as possible, guiding the movement of people intuitively. Patrons, even without conscious thought, adjust their steps and positions, seeking warmth where it accumulates. The ancient invention's influence persists subtly, like a soft current running beneath daily life, shaping comfort and behavior quietly, steadily, and without fanfare. Occasionally, fragments of the old system resurface. Renovation projects uncover hollow floors, clay pipes, or carefully positioned brick pillars. Scholars and builders trace these channels, imagining the invisible flow of heat that once moved beneath entire households. The elegance of the system lies not in spectacle but in patience. Warmth distributed evenly, silently, consistently, touching every room without demanding attention. These rediscoveries inspire new generations of engineers and architects, who adapt the same principles into modern heating systems, from radiant floors to central heating, carrying forward the wisdom of centuries past. Even in the simplest homes, life adapts to the rhythms left behind. Furniture is placed to preserve heat. Rugs and layers of textiles are used strategically. Kitchens and living spaces become gathering points where warmth and conversation linger. Daily routines reflect subtle awareness. Where to step, where to linger, how to preserve comfort for longer periods. The absence of the original invention has not erased its influence. It has merely shaped it into new forms, teaching patience, attention, and gentle care in small, everyday acts. Now, imagine yourself moving barefoot across a floor that rises slowly with warmth beneath your feet. Hear the soft murmur of life, the scraping of a broom, footsteps muffled by rugs, the occasional crackle of a fire. Feel the invisible currents of heat move gently, carrying calm through the room, across the building, through centuries of patient design. Sense the quiet care of countless hands who shaped comfort without need for recognition. Their subtle influence reaching you now, enfolding you in ease. The invention, though centuries old, carries enduring lessons. That comfort is most profound when it is patient, quiet, and steady. That subtlety and care can shape life more deeply than immediacy. That the most lasting influence often moves unseen, touching every step, every movement, and every moment. As your breathing slows, your muscles soften, and your thoughts drift in rhythm with the story. Imagine the invisible channels stretching endlessly beneath floors, through villages, towns, and cities, flowing with warmth, patience, and quiet care. Picture the legacy of human ingenuity, spanning centuries, moving unnoticed yet profoundly shaping experience. Allow this calm, patient energy to settle around you, carrying you deeper into stillness, tranquility, and the gentle embrace of sleep. The story flows onward, like heat rising silently through stone, unhurried, steady, and serene, guiding you further and further into rest, into quiet, into calm. The centuries move onward, slow and deliberate, as if time itself has learned the quiet rhythm of the invention it carries beneath floors. Cities rise and fall, roofs are replaced, streets rerouted, and new generations walk unknowingly above spaces once filled with gentle warmth. Yet, even as life evolves and technology shifts, the essence of the invention persists, guiding comfort, shaping movement, and influencing human behavior with a subtle, unseen hand. Picture a quiet town in the early 19th century. Snow rests lightly on rooftops, the air crisp and still. Inside modest homes, mornings unfold slowly. Families rise gradually from beds, layered with blankets, their bare feet pressing against cold floors softened by rugs and straw. Fires are tended carefully, each log added with thought and precision, coaxing a gentle, even heat that spreads gradually through kitchens, sitting rooms, and hallways. Children move with intuitive understanding, lingering in the warmest spots, adjusting to cooler areas with small, deliberate gestures. These routines, repeated for generations, carry echoes of a system long forgotten, a silent inheritance of patience and care. In wealthier homes, remnants of the ancient invention appear in unexpected places. Renovation work may reveal hollow floors, clay pipes, or brick pillars once hidden beneath layers of timber and coverings. Builders, scholars, and curious observers trace these remnants, imagining the invisible movement of warmth that once flowed beneath rooms and furniture. The ingenuity of the past is quiet and unassuming, yet profoundly effective. Heat moves patiently, evenly, silently, shaping comfort without demanding recognition. The principles embedded in these spaces, careful planning, steady flow, and subtle distribution, remain relevant, offering lessons that extend far beyond their immediate purpose. Public spaces, too, retain the invisible influence of the invention. Bathhouses, guild halls, meeting rooms, and civic buildings are arranged to retain warmth through careful design. Thick walls that hold residual heat, windows placed to catch the sun, floors layered to slow cooling. Patrons, through experience and observation, learn where warmth lingers, adjusting their movement and behavior accordingly. Life unfolds slowly, deliberately, guided by the quiet logic of spaces shaped for comfort. Even in the absence of the channels themselves, the philosophy of steady, patient warmth continues to shape human activity and interaction. As the modern era approaches, engineers and architects rediscover fragments of this wisdom. Underfloor heating systems, radiant panels, and central heating echo the principles of the ancient invention. Modern designers may not know the precise history, yet they follow the same logic. Heat distributed evenly, steadily, and subtly, creating spaces that feel naturally comfortable. In this way, the invention spans centuries, connecting the past to the present through invisible currents of warmth and care. Even in the simplest of homes, life reflects these enduring lessons. Furniture is placed to preserve heat. Rugs and layers of textiles are used strategically. Kitchens and hearths remain the center of comfort and gathering. Daily routines subtly adapt to preserve warmth, echoing the careful balance once achieved by invisible channels beneath stone and clay. The rhythm of life, slow and deliberate, mirrors the movement of heat itself. Steady, unhurried, and profoundly calming. Now imagine yourself moving barefoot across a gently warmed floor. Feel the subtle rise of heat beneath your feet, slow and steady, enveloping your body in calm. Hear the faint murmur of daily life, soft footsteps across stone, the scrape of broom against the floor, the quiet conversation of a household moving with gentle rhythm. Sense the centuries of care and observation that have shaped this calm, patient environment, and allow yourself to relax further into its embrace. The invention, though centuries old and largely forgotten, teaches enduring truths. That comfort is most profound when it is quiet, patient, and steady. that subtle design can shape life more deeply than immediate interventions, and that the most lasting influence often moves unseen, yet touches every moment of experience as your breathing slows, your body softens, and your thoughts drift. Imagine the invisible channels beneath floors stretching endlessly, carrying warmth, care, and quiet, wisdom across centuries. Picture the hands of builders long gone, shaping spaces for comfort, movement, and ease, their patience and attention settling around you now. Allow this calm, persistent energy to envelop you, guiding you ever deeper into rest, into stillness, and into the gentle embrace of sleep. The story continues, like heat rising through stone, unhurried, steady, and serene, carrying you softly into the quiet, patient rhythm of night. Time drifts on, patient and unhurried, as the story flows through centuries of quiet change. Above the hidden channels of the ancient invention, life moves steadily, shaped by seasons, routines, and habits that reflect an invisible influence. Streets are walked, homes are tended, fires are coaxed to life, and generations grow, each unaware of the subtle currents of warmth beneath their feet. Yet the essence of the invention continues, shaping comfort, behavior, and the rhythm of daily life with gentle persistence. Imagine a small town in the early 20th century. Snow settles softly on rooftops, the air is crisp, and smoke rises lazily from chimneys. Inside modest homes, families rise gradually, moving across floors softened with rugs or linoleum. Fires are lit with care, and stoves hum quietly, providing steady warmth. Children instinctively know which areas of the room retain the most heat, lingering in the softest patches, while adults move with measured steps, mindful of conserving comfort. Every gesture, every small adjustment, echoes the logic of centuries past. Warmth, when guided thoughtfully, shapes life gently, steadily, and without demand. In wealthier homes, traces of the ancient invention sometimes emerge during renovations. Hollow floors, clay channels, and brick supports reveal the ingenuity of builders long gone. Scholars and curious observers trace these fragments, imagining the invisible movement of heat that once flowed beneath rooms, furniture, and sleeping bodies. The system was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet profoundly effective. Heat distributed evenly, consistently, quietly shaping comfort without drawing attention. These rediscoveries inspire modern engineers and architects to incorporate similar principles into contemporary systems, from radiant floors to central heating, bridging centuries with gentle continuity. Public buildings, too, continue to reflect the wisdom of the past. Libraries, civic halls, and meeting rooms are designed to capture light and retain heat, guiding patrons toward naturally comfortable areas. Thick walls hold residual warmth, floors layered with care reduce cooling, and windows are positioned to maximize sunlight. People learn to move intuitively through these spaces, seeking warmth, conserving comfort, and adjusting their actions to align with the environment. Life unfolds slowly, deliberately, guided by the same principles of patient, thoughtful design that shaped buildings centuries before. Even in ordinary homes, the echoes of the invention persist. Furniture is arranged strategically to conserve heat. Kitchens and living areas become centers of gathering and calm. Rugs, blankets, and layers of textiles are used to preserve warmth and guide behavior subtly. Daily routines, shaped over generations, reflect an inherited understanding that comfort requires care, observation, and attention to small details. The absence of the original invention does not diminish its influence. Instead, it transforms it into habits, intuition, and lived experience. Now, imagine yourself standing barefoot on a floor that rises gently with warmth beneath your feet. Feel the slow, steady heat wrap around your body, creating a cocoon of calm and ease. Hear the soft murmur of life, footsteps muted by rugs, the faint scrape of a broom, whispers carried through the air, the occasional pop of a fire settling into its rhythm. Sense the centuries of knowledge, care, and patient observation that surround you, guiding you deeper into relaxation. The invention, though largely forgotten, carries enduring lessons. That comfort is most profound when it is quiet, patient, and consistent. That subtle, thoughtful design shapes experience more deeply than any immediate intervention, and that the most lasting influence often moves unseen, yet touches every moment of life. As your body softens, as your breathing slows, and as your mind drifts in rhythm with the story, picture the invisible channels beneath floors stretching endlessly through space and time. Imagine the hands of builders long gone, shaping warmth and comfort for generations to come, their careful work flowing softly into the present moment. Allow this calm, persistent energy to settle around you, guiding you ever deeper into stillness, serenity, and the gentle embrace of sleep. The story flows onward, unhurried and serene, like heat rising through stone, carrying you softly into the quiet, patient rhythm of night, and into the gentle, lasting calm of deep rest. The flow of time remains gentle and unbroken, like a slow breath taken by the world itself. The invention rests quietly beneath layers of memory, soil, and stone, yet its influence drifts upward into daily life, shaping comfort in ways that feel natural, almost instinctive. People no longer think about how warmth moves through their homes, yet they respond to it with a sensitivity learned over centuries, a quiet awareness passed down through habit rather than instruction. In the stillness of a winter evening, homes settle into their familiar rhythms. Lamps glow softly, casting warm pools of light across walls and floors. The outside air presses gently against windows, but inside, warmth lingers, gathered patiently throughout the day. People move less, speak more softly, and linger in spaces that feel calm and protected. Chairs are pulled closer together. Blankets are draped with care. Even silence feels warmer here, shaped by generations who understood that comfort is something to be tended gently, not forced. In older buildings, warmth behaves almost like a memory. Thick walls absorb it during the day and release it slowly into the evening. Floors retain traces of heat long after fires have faded. These spaces seem to breathe with time, offering reassurance without effort. Visitors often describe such places as comforting, though they cannot say why. It is the quiet wisdom of design, inherited from centuries of observation, that shapes this feeling. The ancient invention may be gone, but its philosophy remains, woven into the bones of buildings and the habits of those who dwell within them. As modern life grows faster and louder, these quiet principles become even more valuable. Engineers and architects return, again and again, to the same ideas: balance, distribution, patience. Radiant heating systems warm rooms from the ground up. Insulated walls slow the escape of heat. Temperature is controlled not by bursts of force, but by steady, thoughtful flow. Though the materials have changed, the intention remains the same as it was long ago: to create comfort that feels natural, calm, and sustaining. In everyday moments, people respond without thinking. They pause in sunlit corners. They sit where warmth gathers. They adjust curtains, open doors briefly, then close them again, preserving what has been gently built. These small acts mirror the ancient logic of the invention, guiding warmth where it is needed, allowing it to linger, respecting its quiet presence. Life slows in these moments, becoming softer, more deliberate, more aware. Now, as you remain still, let your attention rest on the feeling of warmth around you. Not the source of it, but the presence. Notice how it settles rather than rushes, how it supports rather than demands. Imagine it rising slowly from beneath stone floors, spreading evenly through rooms, touching walls, furniture, and air alike. Imagine centuries of care embedded in that motion, builders measuring, adjusting, waiting, understanding that comfort grows best when given time. Your breathing follows the same rhythm now, slow, steady, unforced. The world feels quieter when warmth is allowed to move gently, and your thoughts begin to mirror that calm. There is no urgency here, no sharp edges, only a soft continuity that carries you forward without effort. The story does not need to conclude, just as warmth does not need to announce itself. It continues quietly, flowing beneath the surface of history, beneath the floor of the present moment, beneath your awareness. And as it moves, it invites rest, deep, untroubled, and natural. Stay there in that gentle stillness. Let the warmth hold you the way it has held countless lives before, patiently, invisibly, and without asking anything in return. The quiet carries on, uninterrupted, as if the world itself has decided to move more slowly for a while. Warmth remains present, steady and calm, not arriving suddenly but existing as a constant, gentle companion. It settles into walls, into floors, into the spaces between breaths. Nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to happen. The story simply continues, the way evenings do when there is nowhere else to be. In homes old and new, the night deepens. Outside, the air cools, but indoors the warmth that was gathered earlier in the day lingers patiently. It drifts upward from floors, rests along the lower edges of walls, and wraps itself quietly around furniture and fabric. People move less now. The day's work has ended, and even thoughts seem to soften, losing their sharp outlines. This is the hour when the ancient invention would have been at its most gentle, its warmth fully settled, evenly distributed, doing its work without notice. Long ago, builders understood this moment well. They knew that warmth was not something to rush. It needed time to travel, to settle, to become part of a space. The channels beneath the floors were designed with this patience in mind, winding slowly, allowing heat to release itself gradually. Nothing hurried, nothing was wasted, and that same philosophy still lives on, not only in buildings, but in the way evenings naturally slow the human body and mind. Imagine a room lit only by a small lamp or the fading glow of embers in a hearth. Shadows stretch gently along the walls. The floor beneath you holds the day's warmth, releasing it slowly, almost thoughtfully. Every surface feels calm. Even the air seems heavier, softer, as if it has decided to stay still for a while. This is not silence, but a kind of quiet fullness, the kind that feels safe and familiar. Centuries ago, families would have gathered in moments like this, unaware of the engineering beneath their feet, yet fully supported by it. Conversations would have softened. Movements would have become slower. Children would have grown drowsy, their bodies responding naturally to the even warmth surrounding them. Elders would have rested, feeling the quiet comfort without ever needing to understand its source. The invention did not ask for attention. It simply allowed life to unfold more gently. Even now, that same response lives within you. Your body understands steady warmth instinctively. Muscles loosen, breathing deepens. Thoughts begin to wander without urgency, drifting the way heat drifts. Slowly, evenly, without direction or demand. There is no need to follow any single idea. The story does not require focus. It only needs your presence, soft and unforced. The night continues its patient unfolding. Somewhere, walls release stored warmth. Floors remain quietly supportive. The space around you feels settled, as if it has reached a perfect balance and decided to remain there. Time stretches, no longer measured in minutes, but in breaths, in stillness, in the gentle awareness of being at rest. And beneath it all, just as it always has, the quiet logic of the ancient invention remains. A reminder that the most lasting comforts are those that work slowly, invisibly, and with care. It moves with the same rhythm as sleep itself, guiding you not forward, but inward, towards stillness. The stillness deepens, settling gently into the spaces between thoughts. Nothing presses forward. Nothing pulls you back. The world seems content to remain exactly as it is, wrapped in a quiet balance of warmth and calm. This is the hour when even time feels softened, its edges blurred, its pace unimportant. Long after fires have burned low and lamps have dimmed, warmth continues to linger where it was patiently guided. It rests in the floor beneath you, in the walls around you, in the air that moves only when it must. This is the kind of warmth that does not announce itself. It simply stays. It becomes part of the space, the way calm becomes part of the body when nothing is required of it. In centuries past, nights like this were deeply familiar. After the day's work had ended, households would settle into a shared quiet. The gentle warmth beneath stone floors would have reached its most even state, having traveled slowly through channels designed to release heat at just the right pace. There would have been no sudden changes, no fluctuations, only consistency. That steady comfort allowed minds to rest as easily as bodies, easing people into sleep without effort. Even now, your body responds to that same rhythm. Shoulders lower, the jaw softens, breathing becomes slower, deeper, more natural. Thoughts no longer line up in neat patterns. They drift instead, overlapping and dissolving, like warmth spreading through a room with no corners left untouched. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to remember. The room around you feels settled, as if it has reached a quiet agreement with the night. Surfaces hold their temperature. Fabrics feel heavier, more reassuring. The air itself seems to move more slowly, carrying a calm that feels almost tangible. This is not emptiness, but fullness. The fullness of a space that has been cared for gently and allowed to rest. Somewhere far back in time, builders understood that this moment mattered. They shaped stone and clay not for speed, but for balance. They trusted slow movement. They trusted that comfort, when given time, would find its way everywhere it was needed. That trust still echoes now, not as memory, but as sensation. A quiet sense that everything is exactly as it should be. You do not need to follow the story anymore. It moves on its own, like warmth beneath the floor, unseen and unhurried. It does not lead anywhere in particular. It simply continues, steady and calm, supporting rest without interruption. Stay where you are. Let the quiet hold you. Let the warmth remain. Let the night do what it has always done, gently, patiently, without asking anything of you at all. The quiet remains, soft and unbroken, like a gentle layer laid over everything else. There is no rush now, no sense of direction, only a feeling of being held within a calm that asks for nothing. Warmth stays where it has settled, steady and reassuring, as though it has always belonged there. The night seems to breathe slowly. Outside, the world rests under a veil of stillness, while inside, the space around you feels complete and balanced. Floors hold their gentle warmth. Walls stand quietly, absorbing and releasing heat in their own patient way. Even the smallest sounds feel distant, softened, as if they too have learned to move carefully. Long ago, this was the hour people trusted most. After the fire was banked and the household grew quiet, the warmth beneath the floor would continue its silent work. There was comfort in knowing that nothing needed attention, that the space itself would care for those within it. Sleep came not as something to chase, but as something that arrived naturally, guided by the steady presence of warmth and calm. Your body understands this deeply. Muscles loosen without instruction. Breathing slows on its own. Thoughts become lighter, drifting in and out without needing to form words. There is no story to follow now, only a gentle awareness that fades in and out, like the last glow of embers resting beneath ash. The room feels settled, as if it has reached a quiet understanding with the night. Nothing shifts suddenly. Nothing changes sharply. Time stretches not forward, but outward, creating space for rest to deepen. This is where the ancient invention did its finest work. Not by doing more, but by remaining steady, allowing everything else to soften around it. The calm holds its shape, unchanging, like a still pool that reflects whatever drifts across it. Nothing interrupts this moment. Warmth remains evenly spread, neither growing nor fading, simply present. The world feels paused, not frozen, but resting, content to remain exactly as it is. The air feels heavier now, in a comforting way, as though it has settled into place. Each breath moves slowly, quietly, without effort. The space around you feels familiar and safe, shaped by hours of stillness and care. Floors no longer feel cold or warm in contrast, they simply feel steady. Walls stand quietly, holding the night in place. Long before clocks marked hours so precisely, people trusted this feeling to tell them it was time to rest. They listened not with their ears, but with their bodies. When warmth stopped shifting and became constant, when movement slowed and voices softened, sleep followed naturally. The ancient invention was part of that language, a quiet signal that the day was complete and nothing more was required. Now, that same signal reaches you in a different way. There is a gentle sense of completion in the air, as if every loose end has already been tied. Thoughts lose their weight. Memories pass without pulling attention. Even the idea of time becomes distant, unnecessary. Somewhere beneath everything, warmth continues to rest where it was guided long ago, patient and dependable. It does not move quickly. It does not change suddenly. It simply remains, offering support without asking to be noticed. This is the kind of comfort that allows sleep to arrive softly, without effort or intention. The quiet continues to expand, slowly and evenly, as if the night itself is settling more deeply into its own rest. There is no edge to this moment, no clear beginning or end, only a steady presence that surrounds you. Warmth remains where it belongs, gently balanced, neither rising nor fading, simply existing in calm harmony with the space around you. The room feels settled now, as though every surface has reached an understanding with the air. Floors hold their temperature patiently, releasing no surprises. Walls feel solid and dependable, standing quietly as they have for years, perhaps centuries. Fabrics seem heavier, more comforting, draped exactly where they should be. Even the air feels softer, moving only when your breath gently stirs it. Long ago, nights like this were deeply familiar. After the final tasks of the day were completed, households would ease naturally into stillness. Fires were banked, not extinguished, allowed to release their warmth slowly through the evening. Beneath stone floors, heat traveled through carefully planned paths, taking its time, spreading evenly, ensuring that no corner was left untouched. There was reassurance in that steadiness. No one worried about the cold arriving suddenly. The warmth had already been guided where it needed to be. In those moments, people rested without effort. Sleep was not something to pursue, but something that arrived naturally, carried in by the calm of the space itself. Bodies responded instinctively, muscles softened, breathing slowed, thoughts wandered briefly, then faded, dissolving into the background like distant echoes. The invention did not demand attention. It simply created the conditions for rest to unfold on its own. Even now, that same rhythm lives quietly within you. Your body understands this pace. It recognizes the feeling of steady warmth, of a space that no longer asks for movement or decision. There is nothing left to do, nothing to prepare for. The day has already released. Just hold. Outside, the world remains quiet. Streets rest under the cover of darkness. Windows reflect only faint glimmers of light. The night air presses gently against buildings, but inside, warmth remains constant, like a soft boundary between you and everything else. Time feels distant here, less important, as though it has slowed to match your breathing. In ancient homes, builders trusted this process completely. They understood that warmth did not need force. It needed guidance. Channels beneath floors were shaped with care, allowing heat to move slowly, steadily, without urgency. Every turn, every curve, every space between bricks was intentional, designed to encourage patience. The result was not just comfort, but calm, a quiet sense of balance that settled into daily life. That same philosophy remains present now, not as memory, but as sensation. The steadiness you feel is the same steadiness those builders sought to create. It is the feeling of being supported without being held tightly, of being warm without being overwhelmed, of resting without effort. Thoughts drift more slowly now. They appear briefly, then dissolve, like ripples fading on still water. There is no need to follow them, no need to complete them. They move through the mind the way warmth moves through stone, gently, invisibly, leaving comfort behind. The story no longer moves forward. It spreads outward instead, filling the space quietly. There are no events to track, no details to remember. Only the sensation of continuity remains, the feeling that everything is connected by a calm, steady rhythm. Breathing becomes deeper, more natural. Each inhale arrives softly. Each exhale releases a little more weight. The body settles further into stillness, guided by instincts far older than thought. Muscles relax one by one, without instruction, as if they too are responding to the environment's quiet agreement to rest. The ancient invention understood something simple and profound, that true comfort does not announce itself. It does not rush. It does not change abruptly. It remains steady, allowing everything else to slow down around it. That understanding flows through this moment now, shaping the way the night feels, the way rest arrives. Somewhere beneath everything, beneath memory, beneath awareness, warmth continues to exist, patient and reliable. It does not move quickly. It does not need to. It simply stays, offering reassurance without interruption. This constancy is what allows the mind to release its grip, to drift without concern. There is no destination here, no conclusion waiting ahead. The story continues the way warmth continues, evenly, quietly, without needing direction. You do not need to listen closely anymore. The rhythm has already been established. The calm is already present. Stay where you are or let yourself drift further inward. Either way, the warmth remains. The night holds steady, and rest unfolds gently, just as it always has. Slowly, invisibly, and completely, the stillness remains uninterrupted, stretching gently in every direction. Nothing new enters the space, and nothing needs to leave. Warmth stays evenly settled, like a quiet agreement between the room and the night. It does not shift or pulse. It simply exists, steady and reliable, creating a sense of safety that requires no attention. The air feels calm and settled now, as though it has reached the perfect balance between cool and warm. Each breath moves smoothly, unhurried, carrying no urgency with it. The body responds naturally, sinking a little deeper into rest with every slow exhale. There is no effort involved in relaxing anymore. It happens on its own, guided by the environment's quiet reassurance. Long ago, when evenings were darker and nights stretched longer, this was the most familiar part of the day. After work was finished and voices softened, households trusted the space around them to carry them into rest. The warmth beneath the floor had already done its work, traveling patiently throughout the structure, releasing heat slowly, evenly. Nothing needed adjusting. Nothing needed watching. Comfort was already in place. The builders who designed those systems understood that rest begins before sleep. It begins in the way a space holds warmth, in how evenly it is distributed, in how little it demands from the people inside it. Their work was not meant to be noticed. It was meant to disappear into daily life, becoming part of the background, part of the feeling of ease that settles in without explanation. That same feeling surrounds you now. The room feels complete. There are no cold edges, no sudden contrasts. Everything blends smoothly together. Temperature, light, sound, stillness. Even thoughts seem to soften at their edges, losing their shape as they drift through the mind. The night outside remains quiet and distant. Whatever movement exists beyond the walls feels far away, unimportant. Inside, the space holds steady, offering a gentle boundary between rest and the outside world. This separation feels comforting, like a protective layer that allows the body and mind to fully let go. Breathing continues its slow rhythm, deep and effortless. With each breath, the body releases small tensions it didn't even realize it was holding. Shoulders rest more heavily. Hands feel warmer and looser. The muscles around the face soften, and the jaw relaxes. Everything settles into a position that feels natural and supported. The story no longer needs to explain anything. It doesn't move through events or ideas. It simply exists alongside you, quiet and steady, like the warmth beneath stone floors centuries ago. Continues not to lead, but to remain, offering calm without direction. In ancient homes, this was the hour when sleep arrived most easily. There were no bright lights or sharp sounds. Only the quiet consistency of a space that had been gently prepared throughout the day. The warmth had already traveled where it needed to go. The air had already settled. All that remained was to rest within it. Your body understands this instinctively. There is no need to think about resting. It happens naturally when the environment feels safe and steady. The mind drifts not toward specific thoughts, but toward softness. A gentle absence of focus that feels comforting rather than empty. Time feels less defined here. Minutes no longer matter. The night does not move forward so much as it deepens, becoming thicker with calm. The present moment stretches, holding you gently without asking you to move on. Somewhere beneath awareness, warmth continues to exist exactly where it should be. It does not seek attention. It does not fluctuate. It simply supports everything above it. The room, the stillness, your resting body, the same way it has supported countless lives across centuries. Thoughts may still appear now and then, but they carry no weight. They pass through like soft clouds, leaving no trace behind. There is no reason to follow them. They dissolve on their own, returning the mind to quiet openness. The ancient invention understood that comfort works best when it becomes invisible, when it fades into the background and allows life and rest to take center stage. That understanding flows through this moment now, shaping the way the night feels, the way calm settles, the way sleep approaches without announcement. You do not need to wait for sleep. You do not need to reach for it. It arrives the way warmth arrives, slowly, steadily, and without effort. The space around you has already prepared the way. So remain where you are or drift further inward. Let the quiet continue its gentle work. Let the warmth remain steady and reassuring. The story carries on softly, without direction or demand, and rest unfolds naturally, just as it always has. The quiet deepens again, not suddenly, but the way dusk becomes night without anyone noticing the exact moment it happens. Everything feels settled into place now. The warmth no longer feels like something present in the room. It feels like part of the room itself, woven into the floor, the walls, the air, and even the silence. Breathing continues at its own gentle pace. Each inhale arrives softly. Each exhale drifts away without effort. The body no longer needs instruction. It knows how to rest when nothing around it asks for movement or attention. Muscles remain loose and heavy, supported fully, as if the space itself is holding them. Long ago, this was the safest time of day. The work was finished. The doors were closed. The fire had been tended and left to glow quietly. Beneath the stone floors, warmth had reached its most balanced state, evenly spread, no longer traveling, no longer changing. People trusted this moment. They trusted that nothing more was required of them. Sleep followed naturally, without planning, without effort. That same trust lingers here now. There is a sense that everything important has already been done. Whatever needed warmth has received it. Whatever needed attention has settled. The world feels complete, at least for now. The room seems to rest with you. Surfaces feel still. Shadows remain soft and unmoving. Even the darkness feels gentle, as though it has learned how to be quiet. There is no contrast sharp enough to disturb the calm. Everything blends together into a single, steady experience of rest. Thoughts appear less frequently now, and when they do, they arrive without urgency. They drift in, pause briefly, then fade, like echoes that dissolve before reaching the far wall. There is no need to engage with them. They pass on their own, leaving behind a comfortable emptiness that feels peaceful rather than vacant. Centuries of quiet understanding flow through this moment. Builders, families, generations of lives all shared this same feeling without ever naming it. They felt it in their bodies, the signal that it was safe to let go, safe to become still, safe to sleep. The ancient invention played its part simply by remaining steady, by doing nothing dramatic, by supporting rest without interruption. Now, that same steadiness surrounds you. It does not push you toward sleep. It does not pull you anywhere at all. It simply remains, allowing rest to happen when it is ready. Time feels distant, almost irrelevant. The night is no longer moving forward. It is simply present. The moment stretches gently, wide enough to hold everything, quiet enough to ask nothing. If awareness fades in and out, that is natural. If thoughts dissolve mid-sentence, that is expected. The rhythm here is slow and forgiving. There is no need to stay alert. The story continues whether you notice it or not, just as warmth continues beneath stone whether anyone thinks about it. So allow yourself to sink further if that feels right, or remain exactly where you are, floating gently in the calm. The warmth stays, the quiet holds, and rest continues to unfold softly, patiently, invisibly. Just as it has for centuries, the calm stretches onward, wide and unbroken, like a gently lit horizon that never quite fades into darkness. Nothing interrupts it. Nothing needs to. The warmth remains evenly balanced, no longer traveling, no longer shifting, simply resting in place as though it has reached a quiet understanding with the night itself. The space around you feels complete, not full in a crowded way, but whole, as if every part of the room has found its purpose and settled into it. The floor supports without effort. The walls stand quietly, neither cold nor warm, just steady. The air rests against your skin like a soft layer, neither heavy nor thin, simply present. Breathing moves slowly now, deeper than before, guided by a rhythm older than thought. Each breath seems to arrive already prepared, requiring no tension, no adjustment. The body follows along naturally, easing further into rest with every unhurried exhale. There is no tension left to release deliberately. What remains loosens on its own. Long before electric lights and modern clocks, people trusted this hour more than any other. It was the hour when the day's demands had dissolved completely. No tools were needed. No voices were raised. The household existed in a shared quiet, warmed gently from beneath, protected from the chill without ever noticing how that protection was achieved. The ancient systems beneath their feet had already completed their work by this time of night. Heat had traveled patiently through stone and brick, guided along winding paths designed to slow it down, to soften it, to release it gradually. There were no sudden bursts of warmth, no moments of discomfort. Everything was even predictable, calm. That predictability created something rare and valuable: trust. Trust in the space. Trust in the night. Trust that sleep would arrive when it was ready, without effort or concern. People rested not because they were tired alone, but because their environment told them it was safe to do so. That same message is present now, though it may feel quieter, more subtle. It lives in the steadiness of the air, in the absence of sharp sounds, in the way your body feels supported without needing to shift or adjust. It is a message that does not use words. It is felt instead, deeply and instinctively. Thoughts drift through the mind more slowly, as if they too have learned to move gently here. They do not demand attention. They appear briefly, then dissolve before forming fully, leaving behind a spacious calm. There is no need to follow them. There is nothing important hiding inside them. They are simply passing through. The night outside remains distant and unobtrusive. Whatever movement exists beyond the walls feels softened by distance, filtered through layers of stillness. Inside, the space feels protected, insulated not just by stone and structure, but by quiet itself. The world has grown smaller in the most comforting way, narrowed down to warmth, breath, and rest. In centuries past, this was the moment when stories were no longer told aloud. Voices had already faded. Words had already been shared. What remained was the gentle continuation of warmth and silence, carrying everyone toward sleep without instruction. The invention beneath the floor did not compete for attention. It did not signal its presence. It simply remained constant, allowing everything else to slow down naturally. That constancy still holds meaning now. It is the feeling of being able to stop monitoring the world, to stop anticipating what comes next, to rest within the present moment without needing to shape it or guide it anywhere. The body responds instinctively. Muscles rest more heavily. Limbs feel comfortably weighted, supported by the surface beneath them. The face softens, smoothing out expressions that are no longer needed. Even the small muscles around the eyes relax, as if vision itself has decided it can rest. Time feels different here. It no longer moves in a straight line. It spreads outward instead, becoming wide and gentle. Minutes lose their edges. Seconds stretch and blend together. There is no reason to measure any of it. The night does not require tracking. Somewhere beneath awareness, warmth continues to exist exactly as it was intended to. It does not fade quickly. It does not surge. It holds steady, offering quiet reassurance. This steadiness is what allowed generations to sleep soundly through long nights, trusting that the cold would not return unexpectedly, that comfort would remain until morning. The story continues without urgency. It does not build toward anything. It does not seek resolution. Like warmth beneath stone, it simply exists, supporting rest by remaining unchanged. You do not need to listen carefully. You do not need to stay awake for it. It moves along whether it is noticed or not. If awareness drifts, that is natural. If thoughts become fragmented or incomplete, that is expected. This is a space where nothing needs to be finished. Everything is already enough. The quiet feels deeper now, but not heavier. It is the kind of quiet that feels spacious, open, welcoming. There is room here for rest to unfold gently, without pressure. There is room for the mind to loosen its grip and drift wherever it wishes. In ancient homes, this was the hour when even worries softened. Problems belonged to the daylight. Plans belonged to the morning. Night was for stillness, for recovery, for letting the steady warmth beneath the floor carry the body into sleep. That same rhythm surrounds you now. You are not being guided anywhere specific. You are simply being supported, held within a calm that asks nothing in return. Breathing remains slow and even. Each breath feels complete on its own, needing no follow-up. The body settles further into its resting state, responding to the quiet the way it always has, the way it always will. There is no ending approaching, no signal to listen for, The story continues the way the night continues. Evenly, patiently, without interruption. You are free to drift alongside it or let it fade into the background. Warmth remains, stillness holds, and rest continues to unfold softly, steadily, invisibly, carrying you deeper into ease, just as it has done for countless nights before. The calm remains unchanged and reassuring, like a steady presence that has always been there. Nothing intrudes upon it. Nothing pulls at your attention. The warmth feels settled now in a way that no longer registers as a sensation, but as a condition, the natural state of the space, as ordinary and dependable as the ground beneath your feet. The room feels almost suspended in time. Shadows rest where they are, unbothered by movement. The air carries no sharpness, no chill, no heat, only balance. Each breath moves quietly through the chest, unremarkable and complete, as if the body has remembered how to breathe without thought. Long ago, this sense of quiet continuity was deeply familiar. Nights passed without interruption, shaped not by noise or light, but by gradual shifts in warmth and darkness. People did not count the hours as they lay resting. They felt the night instead, trusted it to move at its own gentle pace. Beneath them, warmth lingered patiently, making the long hours of darkness feel safe and unthreatening. That safety was never dramatic. It did not announce itself. It was felt in the absence of discomfort, in the steady calm that made rest possible. The invention beneath the floor did not promise luxury or spectacle. Promised consistency, and consistency over time became comfort. Now that same feeling surrounds you. There is nothing unexpected here, nothing to prepare for. The space feels reliable, predictable, quietly supportive. Your body responds to that reliability by letting go even more deeply, releasing the last subtle efforts it was still making to stay alert. Thoughts come less often now. When they do appear, they feel distant, almost muffled, as if they are happening in another room. They no longer carry urgency or meaning. They drift briefly, then fade, leaving behind a soft openness that feels restful rather than empty. The night outside remains distant and still. Whatever sounds exist beyond the walls are softened by space and silence, arriving only as faint impressions, if at all. Inside, the quiet feels layered, rich, and protective, like a gentle covering that insulates everything within it. In centuries past, this was the moment when sleep came most easily. The household had settled completely. Fires were left to glow quietly. Warmth beneath the stone had reached its most even state. There was nothing left to adjust, nothing left to tend. The space itself carried everyone gently toward rest. That same process is unfolding now. You do not need to guide it. You do not need to watch for it. Rest arrives when the conditions are right, and the conditions are already here. The body feels heavier in a comforting way, fully supported by the surface beneath it. Muscles no longer hold themselves ready. They rest completely, trusting that they will be needed again later, not now. The face softens further, smoothing into a neutral, relaxed expression that requires no effort to maintain. Time feels almost non-existent. There is no clear sense of before or after. Only this quiet present moment stretches gently, wide enough to hold everything. The story does not progress so much as it continues to exist, steady and unobtrusive, like warmth beneath stone. The ancient builders understood this rhythm intuitively. They knew that comfort was not about speed or intensity. It was about patience, about allowing warmth to move slowly, predictably, without interruption. Their work was meant to fade into the background, to become invisible so that rest could take its place at the center of the night. That invisibility is what you feel now. Comfort that does not demand attention. Calm that does not need explanation. The space supports you quietly, asking nothing in return. Breathing remains slow and even, each breath blending seamlessly into the next. Awareness drifts in and out, softening at the edges. There is no need to stay focused. No need to follow the story closely. Continues whether it is noticed or not. Warmth remains steady. Quiet holds gently, and rest continues to deepen, unfolding naturally and patiently, carrying you further into stillness, just as it always has, night after night, without effort or concern. And now, as the warmth settles completely around you, As the quiet of the night flows through every corner of the room, you can feel yourself letting go even more. The gentle rhythm of your breath, the slow, even stillness of your body, and the steady, patient warmth beneath you guide you softly into rest. The centuries have passed. The invention beneath stone floors has done its quiet work, and now you are a part of this long, unbroken chain of calm. Every movement has slowed, every thought has softened, and every sound has faded into the background. You are exactly where you are meant to be, held, supported, and at peace. There is no rush, no destination, no unfinished task. The night carries you forward gently, and your mind can drift freely into the soft folds of sleep. Let the quiet deepen. Let the warmth linger. Let the slow, steady passage of time wrap around you like a soft blanket. Tonight you rest. Tonight you float on this calm. And as you drift deeper and deeper, allow yourself to surrender completely to sleep, knowing that the gentle rhythms of history, warmth, and care surround you, invisibly, patiently, and endlessly. Good night.